Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of UC Sports. I'm Alexis Gwynn alongside Hezekiah Johnson, and we've got a packed show for you tonight.
That's right, Alexis. We've got a great show for you all tonight. A lot of teams were in action this past weekend, and UC Sports has the latest updates. So let's get to it. You're watching UC Sports. Welcome back to UC Sports. We're going to get things started with UConn football. The Huskies continue their losing ways on the road to number 18, UCF. UCTV was in Orlando this weekend, and Daniela Marilanda has the story.
UConn visited an undefeated UCF team, 18th in the nation and leading the country in points per game. Against a team like this, you cannot afford to make mistakes. Unfortunately for the Huskies, that's exactly what happened. 3 self-inflicted wounds in the first quarter changed the course of the game and allowed UCF to score in multiple drives. To start off the game, the Huskies got called for an offside in the first drive of the game, giving the Knights their first down. Minutes later, when the Huskies were on the offense, inches away from scoring a touchdown, Tommy Mayer's move and UConn was called for a false start. Officials gave a 5-yard penalty and the Huskies had to settle for a field goal. And then, a shuffle pass from David Pindell to Kevin Mensah, which ended in a fumble, put the Knights in the red zone. The slow start didn't help UConn, and with a high-scoring team like UCF, those mistakes become touchdowns.
Early in the game, we were shooting ourselves in the foot with mistakes that, and we're not a heavily penalized team, and today we were.
UConn looked good for long stretches of the game, particularly in the third quarter, where quarterback David Pindell rushed for 9 yards to cut into the UCF lead. Pindell looked much better than in his first game against Holy Cross. UCF was shut out for only the second quarter this season.
We always believed that we're going to come back and win the game, especially in the third quarter, because we were only down, I think, 11, and all we needed is a touchdown and another touchdown, and we could stop them. We got a couple stops, but offense didn't come through, but it's still good.
In the end, UConn was unable to carry the momentum into the fourth quarter. The Knights took advantage of the missed opportunities and the mistakes in the defense, making the final score 24-49.
Now, Ryan Kim, who was in Orlando, is here with us to break down the game. Welcome to the table, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
First off, what areas did number 18 UCF overpower UConn in this game, and what holes did they take advantage of?
Yeah, well, you see, UCF, they took advantage of mainly their quarterback, Mackenzie Milton's dual threat ability. It's always hurt UConn in terms of, when they face Navy or Army, really any of the service academies, they always come through with the dual threat action. But Mackenzie Milton, he was 24 for 36, 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. And rushing, he went 10 rush attempts for 57 yards. Now, 57 attempts is not necessarily, or 57 yards, is not necessarily, an extreme amount of yards, but he did have 5.2 yards per rush. So he was able to outrun UConn's pass rush. The team, UCF, they were able to capitalize on the Huskies' turnovers. They had 3 in the first quarter, and in the opening drive, they had a key penalty in which Tommy Myers drew a false start, and that really sucked the life out of the offense for the Huskies. And from that point, they had to set up for a field goal, and really from there, it sucked the momentum out of them. The Knights kind of just started running with the football from there on. They only lost 1 fumble, but that 1 fumble by Kevin Mensah, unfortunately, it was recovered by UCF. But it was recovered so far in their red zone that really they only needed 1 or 2 plays, and they got a touchdown right on the board. But overall, it was, the Huskies, they gave away too many extra possessions, and they had too many penalties.
Where did you see UConn shine? What players, areas of the game, or strategy?
Yeah, I think, as usual, the offense was a bright spot. You saw them moving the ball around, whether it was running, passing the football, whatever. But UConn, they were really able, in this game, they were really able to stick with the Knights through 3 quarters. They shut them down in the third quarter specifically. Now, the Knights, like I said, they are the highest scoring team in the nation, but the Huskies were able to shut them down and shut them out in that third quarter. And that's only the second time in the second quarter this season that's happened for this UCF team. So that's a great, starting point for them moving forward. But they got it to an 11-point deficit, which, they always kind of kept with them in that game. And much of that was due to David Pindell's, the quarterback, much better gameplay than his first game against Holy Cross. Mm-hmm. He was 18 for 31, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But he got it done on his feet. He had 21 rush attempts for 105 yards. So going forward, if he can produce like he did and even grow, build on that and, pass the ball a little bit more, move the football around a little bit more, maybe get some more passing yards in there, I think definitely, the Huskies, they have a bright future going forward. I mean, couple that with Arkell Newsome, who returned a couple weeks earlier than expected from his injury. It took the pressure off the freshman running backs who, they not necessarily have been struggling, but definitely took the pressure off from forcing those turnovers and kind of get his head straight again. But Arkell Newsome, he only had 34 yards in his return, but he did have a big 60-yard reception that just kept the chains moving and always kept the UConn in this game. So, obviously moving the football around is a big thing, but when you have the running backs and the quarterback having the ability to run the ball move the ball with their feet, always a good sign for things to come.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Hopefully UConn can continue improving into the win column next weekend against BC at Fenway. We have to go to a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to UC Sports. The UConn women's soccer team went into the AAC tournament with the momentum and adrenaline after defeating Temple 3-2. However, they came up short and quickly lost the first round to Memphis with the score of 3-1. The story was overshadowed by the news of the retirement of head coach Len Santeres. Santeres retires after devoting 37 years to the program. He finishes his career with 570 wins. He ranks the second in all-time wins in women's soccer history. With his guidance and wisdom, UConn advanced to 31 NCAA tournaments. Santeres said it has truly been an honor to work at UConn, and he will surely be missed by his players and faculty members.
On the men's side, the Huskies were part of a controversial ending in the AAC semifinals as they fell to number 2 seed UCF 1-0. In the 90th minute, UConn superstar Abdul Jam shot a free kick that hit the crossbar and bounced down and into the goal. The call on the play was no goal, but video evidence showed the ball indeed crossed the goal line, so it should have been called a goal. Unfortunately, the AAC hasn't implemented video review, so the play wasn't looked at again. This heartbreaking loss concludes the Huskies' season for 2017. The Huskies will look to regroup this offseason as they return most of their key contributors next year.
UConn field hockey earned their program's 15th trip to the Final Four this weekend. UConn defeated Penn State in an exciting 4-3 Elite 8 matchup on Sunday afternoon at the Sherman Family Complex. Our reporter Ian O'Connor was there and has the story of the nail-biter that was the game.
The number 1 ranked UConn field hockey team hosted number 6 Penn State this afternoon in the NCAA quarterfinals as the Huskies look to continue their undefeated season en route to the Final Four. Things got off to a hot start for the Huskies as senior Casey Umstead opened the scoring 5 minutes into the game off a penalty corner. And midway through the first half, Svea Boker extended their lead to 2 on an assist from senior Charlotte Veitner. But the Nittany Lions would not hang their heads, responding with 2 goals of their own to knot it up going into halftime. Unfazed, UConn came out of halftime firing. Veitner scored her nation-leading 31st goal to put UConn ahead 3-2. As she continues to build on her historic career.
2 more games and then my career's over, so I'm going to put it all out there and so are my teammates.
She was followed by a goal by Barbara Vandenhoegen, and down yet again by 2 goals, Penn State fought back, cutting the lead to 1. But heartbreak set in when Penn State thought they had scored the game-tying goal with 13 minutes to go, but the goal was disallowed after a video review. With each passing second, the atmosphere became more tense, but senior goalkeeper Nina Klein dug in and made several key saves down the stretch, clinching the game for the Huskies 4-3. Despite the close contest, head coach Nancy Stevens' confidence never wavered, believing that her players would get the job done.
We just know that we're special, that we're so talented in every position. we're very fortunate. This is a very talented group, and they play well together, and they're really bright.
The Huskies will travel to Louisville this weekend to take on fourth-seeded North Carolina, continuing a classic rivalry between the two programs. From Storrs, Connecticut, I'm Ian O'Connor, UC Sports.
The ladies will now head to Kentucky to face number 4 North Carolina in the semifinals on Friday, November 17th in Louisville. Flashback to last year, these two teams played in the semifinals and the Tar Heels won it in overtime 2-1. Now joining us at the desk to break down the field hockey team is Brandon Carney, who spent the weekend at the playoff games. Brandon, how have the Huskies looked through their first 2 tournament games? Do they look as dominant as in the regular season, and have they handled it with as much ease?
Well, the games were pretty interesting. They were very different. The Boston University game, they only won 3-1. If you remember earlier in the season, they actually beat BU 8-1. And if you look at certain things in the box score, you would have thought this was kind of a similar game. They outshot BU 14-3, and Charlotte Weitner had 2 goals. But even those goals were really hard fought. They were both deflections. The Huskies they had a lot of shots, but a lot of them weren't really quality shots. And then against Penn State, things were very different. It was a very competitive game. UConn came out of the gate, scored 2 goals, as you just saw. Penn State answered with 2 of their own. And that was it could have gone either way. It seemed like it was really anybody's game, but ultimately UConn came away with it. Penn State UConn allowed a couple of own goals, even though they don't really call them that in field hockey, but a couple of Penn State's goals went off UConn sticks. I would say overall they do look pretty dominant. They handled Penn State. Like I said, the game flow of BU, they handled that pretty well. So yeah, I think they're definitely looking good heading into the Final Four.
Okay, now is this a senior class that will be booking in its collegiate career with national championships?
I would say there's absolutely a chance. I don't see why not. They're heading to play North Carolina, as you mentioned. They lost to North Carolina, but they've played them twice in the past 4 years. UConn won the other matchup, so this is kind of the rubber match between the two. They've played them a lot in the past. It's going to be a good one. I hope there's a way to kind of stream the game for all our fans because it's going to be a really competitive game. I do think that this team, though, led by Charlotte Weitner and the other seniors, they have as good a chance as anybody to come home with a national championship. Number 2, Duke, on the other side of the bracket, did get bounced this past weekend, so the road got a little bit easier, but they got to get by North Carolina first.
Well, Brandon, we're definitely hoping the trophy returns to Storrs. We'll take another quick commercial break, but when we return, we'll be moving to the ice. Stick with us. Welcome back to UC Sports. From field hockey to ice hockey, the UConn's men's team hosted Ohio State for 2 games at home. On Friday night, the Huskies had a tough battle that went to the wire. UC Sports' Alexandra Palmer has the recap.
The UConn men's hockey team hosted number 17 Ohio State, looking to start off with a win in their 2-game series. In the first period, the Huskies were shut out while Ohio State got off to a hot start, scoring in the first 40 seconds and then scoring again 8 minutes in. At the end of the period, the Huskies trailed 2-0. The second period, the Huskies offense finally got going. After another Ohio State goal, the Huskies would go on a 2-0 run with goals from Jesse Schwartz and Spencer Nas. The end of the period would be 3-2 Ohio State. In the third period, Ohio State would get the first goal again 4 minutes into the period. 3 minutes later, UConn answered back with another goal from Jesse Schwartz. A minute later, Ohio State puts one into the net. Towards the end of the game, Coach Kavanaugh pulls a goalie and decides to put 6 men on the puck. Max Kelter would score for the Huskies with just under 3 minutes to play. Ohio State would hold tough in the remaining minutes, and the final score would be 5-4 Ohio State.
And I don't think it was necessarily because we didn't come out and we came out sluggish. I thought we came out and played pretty well in the first period. Just, like I said, a couple bounces didn't go our way. There was more of an issue a couple weeks ago where I thought we were flat, and I didn't think that was the case tonight. It was just, like I said, a couple bad bounces.
UConn and Ohio State will take the ice tomorrow at 3:35 to close the series. For UC Sports from the XL Center, I'm Alexandria Palmer.
Following the loss, UConn picked up a point on Saturday, skating to 1-1 tie with the Buckeyes. Both teams struggled to get their offense together in the first period. After Ohio State struck first, senior Jesse Swartz was able to pick up the game, tying goal in the third period for UConn. The women fell short in both matchups to conference opponents against Boston University Annie Bellinger's second 40-save performance on the year kept the Huskies in it. Justine Fredette and Natalie Snodgrass scored but could not finish the overtime period, tying 2-2. In the 4-3 overtime loss to Hockey East Full Maine on Sunday, freshman Natalie Snodgrass had a great 2-goal performance defensively. Senior Annie Bellinger made 26 saves, but that wasn't enough to stop the Black Bears from scoring just 35 seconds into the extra period.
Basketball season is officially underway, ladies and gentlemen, and things got off to a great start here at Storrs. On the men's side, the Huskies were without star point guard Jalen Adams, who was suspended indefinitely following a misdemeanor charge on Thursday. The Huskies didn't miss a beat, though, as they defeated Colgate 70-58. Friday night at Gimple, Terry Learier led the way for the Huskies with 27 points on 11 for 18 shooting. On the women's side, the Huskies returned back to their winning ways as they routed number 10 Stanford 78-53 in Columbus, Ohio. The Huskies were led by sophomore sensation Crystal Dangerfield, who recorded a game and career-high 24 points. Dangerfield was 9 for 16 from the field, but was extraordinary from behind the arc, hitting 6 of her 7 attempts. Up next, the Huskies take on number 20 California, Friday night at Gamble Pavilion. That's going to do it for our show tonight. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the UCTV Channel 14 and on Twitter at the UCTV Sports for all things UConn sports. For Alexis, Gwynn, I'm Hezekiah Johnson. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Good night.